the computer. Okay, we are back. Oh, I didn't put up the Safaria link. So let me go do that. Okay, and please excuse the strange look on my face, which is the look of a man looking for something. And I'll put that up quickly so that people can get that. Otherwise, I do prepare, so you know. Okay. Let's make it was 47. So okay.
We're still in devotion, right?
Yes, we're still in devotion, and we are. I'm gonna say around 50, 56, 57. No, further. Um, yeah, 64. Okay, so I'm gonna post that, and it's section 64. Okay. Okay, section 64. Okay, we are in our deep dive into our lower self, into our own negativity. Welcome to the wonderful world of the Yetzer Hara and the conversation between the Yetzer Hara, our lower self and our intellect. And our lower self has been working very hard on us. Last week, it acknowledged that we're doing great, right? It knows that we're doing great and said, wow, you're amazing. You're really serving God well, and starts to kind of work on us and kind of work on us in more subtle ways. So we just said, so the Yetzer Hara just said, listen, you shouldn't hide your piety from other people. You shouldn't hide your good deeds from other people. Oh, I realize that I'm not sitting in my chair. It's okay. Don't hide your good deeds from other people, because it's good for them to learn from you. It's good for them to see. It can be instructive to them. You can teach them. It's a really good thing. So you should make sure that other people know. And besides, you'll get prestige and honor in the world, and that's a good thing. It's good for people to give prestige and honor to good people like you. So now we have the answer. So how do we answer the Yetzer Hara now? So the answer is as follows. How will men's praise and the good name I will have among them benefit me? And conscious as I am of my inadequacy in the fulfillment of my obligations to the Creator. So how is it, so let's say everybody says I'm great, right? Everybody says, oh, you're so great, you're so pious, you're so awesome, you're so wise, whatever. What does that matter to me? My throat is killing me. If I know that I'm not so great, if I know who I am, if I have a sense of my own inner self, and my own inner weaknesses, then I'm going to end up at best with imposter syndrome, right? I'm going to end up with this feeling like, okay, all these claims being made about me, but everybody knows that they fall short. Everybody knows. And so there's always going to be that inner voice. So you can turn to the Yetzer Hara and say, listen, it's not going to work that way. It's not like there's not this other voice inside me. Not like there's this other this other side to me that says, hey, I know my weaknesses, and this is not me. Says, what benefit is there to me? Says, in the honor and respect they show me when it's not within their power to help me or protect me from harm. Right? We know that most of the circumstances that we live in are not in the control of other people necessarily. So maybe they think I'm great, maybe they think I'm wonderful, but what control do they have over anything? So in this regard, they are not so different from the plants or non-rational animals. Right? If the local opossums think that I'm great, well, that's wonderful. It's wonderful that the opossums think I'm great, but they can't do anything for me, right? And the same thing for most human beings or the trees. If the trees may look at me with great admiration, but but they can't do anything for me. So, moreover, if I make this the motive of my actions, I may not succeed as I had intended in winning people's favor. They may form the impression that I'm hypocritical in my actions, consider me worthy of nothing but contempt and shame. It could backfire, right? It could backfire. So if I let everybody believe, right, that I'm so ay, and then there's some small fault in me, right, that they discover, okay, then where am I? Right? Then not only that, then it's even worse. Then in addition to being, worse to be a hypocrite than to be a bad guy, right? So now I'm like really a bad guy. I'm a bad guy. I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing. That'd be really bad. So, so that might backfire. So this reputation and so on that I might be seeking, well, that might be a complete waste of time. Okay, in that case, I've spoiled my deeds by not intending them for God's sake, and I will fail to attain what I've hoped to receive from the people in this world. I basically will have blown it completely because I've given up on serving God for God's sake alone, right? Because I'm busy worrying about everybody else thinks, right? And even forgetting and when it comes to what everybody else thinks, now they're going to think I'm just a hypocrite. So a king was once asked, so how did you enjoy the reading of so-and-so? Says the reader had a sweet voice and was an expert in correct accentuation. Right? I guess this is, of course, this is, in medieval Spain when, I guess he's referring to the, like the recitation of the Quran, which is, of course, is a very big deal. Recitation of poetry also is a very big deal in medieval Spain. Recitation of the Torah, which also had to be very perfect. And so he says, the king replied, how could I enjoy his reading when his sole intention in reading was to please me so as to have favor in my sight? Had he intended it solely to please the Creator, then it would have been sweet to me. There's a nice story about Rabbi Nachman of Breslov that they once brought a cantor. They brought a Jewish singer, and prayer leader to the synagogue. In he was living at that point. I think he was living already in Uman. I brought this guy, and he had a beautiful voice. And everybody was like stunned. They were like, wow, this guy has such a beautiful voice. It's so amazing. He's got this. And, and he was doing all of the operatic stuff, and it was really something. And they asked Rabbi Nachman about it. And he said, it would have been better if he hadn't been singing for his wife. And somebody said, what do you mean? He said, ask his wife. So they go and they ask the guy's wife and said, what do you think the Rebbe meant by this? Oh, my husband, he knows I love his voice. I love his voice. And every time he sings, it's really for me. He just loves for me to hear his voice. Right. So he's saying, he says the guy is leading prayers, but he's really not directing them to God. It's really he's performing, right? He's performing for other people. So the king is saying, it was for my benefit. It's my benefit. Really, for these things, I want to see somebody who really sings for God. So the same is true of those who lead the public prayers and cantorial performers of new liturgical hymns. If their intention in their prayers find favor with people rather than the Almighty may be exalted, such prayer is not acceptable to God. By the way, he lived at a time when there were many poets in Spain, Jewish poets and non-Jewish poets, who were writing all this beautiful religious poetry. Some of it very good, some of it not so good, some of it was very heartfelt, and some of it was very kind of full of all sorts of kind of rhetorical flourishes and things like that, was kind of a little bit far-fetched. And um, and so he says, these people who are, performing, it's if this is supposed to be prayer, it has to be directed to God. And if it's not directed to God, it's just a performance. So he says, say further to the evil inclination, right? So we're now talking back to our evil inclination. So we're going to say to the Yetzer Hara, it may be that if I receive honor in this world for my deeds, nothing will be left of me of the reward for them in the world to come, since I received it in advance in this world. So, then I don't necessarily want the world, I don't want my reward in this world. I want my reward in the world to come. The honor, so to speak, that I would receive in the world to come would be much better than any honor that I could receive in this world. So he tells this story. He says, the story is told of one of the pious who went to the marketplace to purchase a certain item and entered a tradesman's store to buy it. A neighbor said to the storekeeper, he says, yield to him, comply with his wishes, for he is a devotee of piety and Torah. So the pious one, the Chassid, he's now, interesting, by the way, he's now switched language a little bit. He's using this word Chassid a lot. The pious one. It comes up a lot in the next section, because we started out with a normal Yetzer Hara. We started out talking about kind of like your run-of-the-mill garden variety, right? Yetzer Hara, your sort of normal lower self. Now we've kind of advanced. Now we're talking about the Yetzer Hara of a really good person, right? Of a person who's really worked on themselves hard. And so it's become much more subtle. So the person said, so he said to him, he says, please give him whatever he wants, because he's a Torah scholar and he's very pious. So the pious one said to him, he says, I do not need your favor. I'm here to buy with money, not with my Torah. Says he refused to buy the article from the merchant and sought it another who did not know of him. Now, this is a great story for me, because I was very close to my rabbi, who was in his 90s already, and a very holy looking, and a very holy character in general. And I was the guy who took him shopping. That was my job. In addition to being his student, we were studying together, I was the guy who took him shopping, which is good. Even though he insisted on driving, he drove like Mr. Magoo. For those people who remember what Mr. Magoo is, he literally drove like Mr. Magoo. But we would go to stores and people would try to give him things for nothing. It happened to us all the time, because he was such a holy guy. And like wherever we went, we'd go to the market, and the grocery guy would be some Israeli guy, and he would say, Rabbi, no, please, you take. Rabbi, please, you take it. Okay, I don't want anything from you, holy man. Okay, very good. Yes, Sadiq, I don't want. And he'd go, and he would go, no. He said, go no. He said, okay, I give you a discount. He said, no, I don't want your discount. He says, I don't want your discount. And he would literally say, I'm paying with money, not with my Torah. So apparently he had read this. Apparently he had read this, and he used this line all the time, and whenever this would happen, and it happened all the time, people would try to give him discounts. Today we have rabbi discount, or even there was a wonderful Latino little grocery store owner, and he loved the rabbis. He loved the rabbi also because the rabbi always carried candy in his pockets, right? And so the guy had children, and so the rabbi was always giving candy to the children and whatever. So he was a very beloved character in that particular store. And the Latino guy was constantly trying to give him stuff. He would sneak in things into the bag, right? He would try to sneak things into the bag, extra things. So if he bought 2 tomatoes, he would put 3 tomatoes. And the rabbi was careful, and he'd go, no, 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 no. And he would pull the tomato out. He said, thank you, but no, thank you. So, okay. Sorry about the story, but it came to mind. So as to the verse you quoted now, he says, as to the verse you quoted, because remember that the Yetzer Hara knows everything you know, because the Yetzer Hara is you, right? And so if you know Torah, the Yetzer Hara knows Torah too. So the Yetzer Hara said, he says, I make you, so it said before, as the verse you quote, I will make you a great name, is one of the things human beings aspire to in this world, like riches and honor, which the Creator bestows upon his servants when his wisdom dictates, as it is written, I give you also what you did not ask for, both riches and honor. So it says, look, you said before that like it's normal to want riches and honor. It's normal to want, it's part of being a human being is to want the dignity of being honored. Is part of being a human being is want to have the comforts of life and to have a certain degree of luxury. Those are normal things to want and important things to want in life. It says, but notice what does the Torah say? He says, so in Malachim, in Book of Kings, I give you also what you did not ask for, both riches and honor. Long life in its right hand and its left hand are riches and honor. He said God, right? So God says, so I'm going to give you what things you didn't ask for. I'm going to give you wealth and honor. So that means a couple of things. One is, right? One is, let's take the second part. The second part is, it makes, look, God recognizes that we want wealth and honor, right? That's reasonable to want that. But he also knows what it says. So, what you didn't ask for, I'm going to give you. Now, so now he's going to say, maybe, right? If it's the expectation of it, right? It's in the asking expectation where you come with problems. Says the pious, however, are not motivated in their actions by any of these things. Their intention, rather, is for the sake of the Creator, right? We're doing it for the sake of the Creator. May he be exalted. It says, who bestows these gifts on whoever he pleases. It says, those devoted to his service and those who are non-believers, as his wisdom dictates, as it says, riches and honor come from you. Right? God, it comes from you and doesn't come because you ask for it. It doesn't come before you ask for it. And if we look around the world, we see, in truth, when it comes to Osher and Kavod, when it comes to riches and honor, what does it go to? It goes to whoever God wants it to, right? It's not. There's no formula. In spite of all those people like Tony Robbins and all those people who try to convince you that there's some formula that can make sure that you are rich and famous. Nothing can ensure that at all, right? Nothing ensure that at all. Says so. That's not. So he says that the person who is the chassid, the person now was at this high level, this refined Yetzer Hara. It's not going to do this. It says, furthermore, even if I were to, now we're talking back to our Yetzer Hara. Furthermore, even if I were to enjoy universal fame, what is this world? Even if I were to become world famous, what is the measure of my days? Think about, of course, I'm old enough now that all the movie stars of my childhood are dying, right? Because they were significantly older than me. So I'm watching those. They're all getting old, right? You've seen Paul Newman lately, right? Right. They're all getting old, and they're all and now they're dying, right? Getting on dying. And they were the most famous people. Like they were like, they really mattered, right? And it comes in the newspaper, so and so died. And if I turn to Kaylin and I say, Kaylin, who is that? She'll go, I don't know. I never heard of that. Actually, she probably would. That's probably chose absolutely the wrong person in the room to say that about.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know you. I know you know. Okay, I know you know. But most people, most of the lettered generations, right, would have absolutely no idea most of these people are, and it's we don't live very long. We don't live very long, and fame doesn't last very long. So how much less value is there in fame, which is widespread it may be, which will reach only a small part of the civilized world, endure but a brief while, and then be forgotten as though it had never been, right? You could become famous in some place, right? You could become, one time I heard like the most popular singer in Albania, right? I never heard of them before. Like I just had absolutely no idea. But I mean, if you were in Albania, they were like, they were like super, super, super famous. But we're going to be famous among some small group of beings. So he says, as scripture says, human beings are a mere breath, mortal men, but an illusion. Put them on a scale together, they weigh less than a breath, right? We're not, we're like dust on the scales. It says his breath departs, he returns to the earth. There's no memory of the earlier ones, right? Members, you look at pictures of you look at pictures of your grandparents and your great grandparents, everything else. Like, okay, their great grandparents very nice, but who were they? Or who were they? What were they about? What did they think? What did they? We have no idea. So we're gonna pass from this world, right? Even the most famous of us is gonna pass the world, and chances are that nobody is gonna know what our favorite jelly is, right? They're just not gonna know. Strawberry, I guess. Says, this being the case, it would be an obvious degradation and shameful error on my part to preoccupy myself with the world and make it my aim, right? So that's where I'm answering my answer. Given all this, like so far from what you said, what would be the point? Like I'm going to make myself famous and everything for for my 15 minutes of fame, right? Really, that's important to me. So it's related that one of the pious asked another. Remember, I said now that the word pious, chassid, is coming up a lot. He said, "Anishtabeta, have you achieved equanimity? Have you achieved equanimity?" So the guy says, but in what way are you talking about? Like in what area are you talking? He says, are praise and insult equal in your eyes? He says, no. He says, then you have not arrived. Right? Lo higata. He says, you haven't gotten there yet. He says, keep on working. He says, keep on working, make an effort. Perhaps you'll reach this level where it's the highest level among the pious and the most precious of all virtues. To not care about, there's among Sufis, I think that this may be kind of happening here. Among Sufi, there's actually a concept of the path of insult. The path of insult. People who do kind of crazy things just for the sake of experiencing insult. They may be religious, but they'll pretend not to be religious so that people think badly of them. Or they may wear, actually one of these sects has just come to New York City. I just noticed there's a Moroccan sect of Sufis that wear these bizarre, almost clown costumes. They wear costumes made out of colored squares of fabric. They wear gowns made of colored squares. They've got a bizarre looking clown, sort of brightly colored gowns, like jalabias, so that people will kind of make fun of them. There are stories. A story is told that in the Musar yeshivot, in the Jewish academies that were specifically to help develop character, they used to do exercises like they would send students, to a hardware store to buy strawberries, right? So they would go to the hardware store and they'd say, "Excuse me, I'd like to buy strawberries." And the person would say, "Well, this is a hardware store. We don't have any strawberries." And go, "Well, no, are you sure you don't have any strawberries?" And they would do this just for the sake of experiencing humiliation, right, of experiencing humiliation, so that they could get used, so that they don't care if people praise them or they don't care if people, right, to get to the point where somebody praises them or somebody insults them, it doesn't matter to them. So that's a very high level. It says, when the evil inclination despairs of enticing you along these lines, it will try to ruin your religious practice by occupying your mind with this world and its people, with your endless desires, and through disregard of your latter end. So busy work is the last, is now the last, among the last resorts of the Yetzer Hara. Now it's interesting because I would put this up in the first. For me, maybe it's because I'm such an advanced student that now that's my biggest obstacle. But he says busy work. He says it's going to make you busy with endless stuff. When it sees you want to clear your mind and turn your attention to acts which make you worthy of the next world, right? As obligatory prayer or optional prayer, right? You want to do Torah study, or you want to study any field related to faith or morals. You want to understand emunah, musar, right? Faith, or you want to work on your character, right? It's going to confuse you. Matrid libcha b'divrei olam. It's gonna and it's gonna busy your heart with things of the world, right? It's gonna keep you busy with stuff. It says it will try to confuse so thoughts of business, buying and selling, profits and losses. I will add that today, while I was preparing for this class, and I was reading this before just to make sure I'm familiar with it. My phone kept ringing with financial stuff. And it was like ding, ding, emails on financial stuff. And I got phone calls about financial stuff. And it was exactly at this point in my study that the entire world decided it needed to talk to me about money. So I take that as a good sign. They say that the Yetzer Hara is a smart burglar. It never robs an empty house. So I guess I was making some spiritual progress and I got distracted. So you should gladly welcome this free time. Now, of course, now the Yetzer Hara is still talking. You should gladly welcome this free time, this idle period, since because of your busy schedule, you may not have such an opportunity at another time. Now is the time to make an accounting with your partner of your assets, your liabilities, how much you've collected, what is due, and how much is outstanding. Think now about what it means to a livelihood, which means to a livelihood are suitable for you, which are not. Recall which are your ventures, gave you satisfaction, which you regretted. If you have a case pending in court, review it in your mind. All of your opponents' pleas and your own. Think of different strategies to outwit and defeat him when the case is tried. So, of course, those are great examples, but there are also lots of other examples, right? There are lots of other examples. Having that same having the woulda, coulda, shoulda conversation in your head, right? I should have said this. I could have said this. Why didn't I say that? And then they said to me, and I should have said to them, and I didn't say that, right? All of that can keep you very busy, worrying about your your bank account, worrying about your insurance, worrying about this, worrying about that, right? All of these things can keep you very busy and can be very distracting. Of course, there are times when we have to take care of these things. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the moment that we're trying to kind of focus, meditate. That's not necessarily the time when all of those we should attend to all those distractions. But just, let them go their way. Let them go their way. He says, so too, if you have liquid assets, this is, you have, say in law, chattels, you have chattels. You have sheep and cattle or land to be sown, or if you must perform some service for government officials or a private citizen, you have some counts to settle, or you have debts you can't pay, you have friends whose affairs you watch over, and of which you must keep given a conscientious account. The tempter, it's a great word. the tempter. I have to look at the Hebrew. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold on. Okay, I don't want to waste your time with it, but I'll find it. So the tempter will say to you, which you will tempter will bring one of these kinds of concerns to your mind at that time that you free yourself for serving God in order to preoccupy you with them and ruin your religious practice. From when you perform it, you'll be present in body, but absent in heart and mind. So it will distract you. Right. So let's say I come into the beautiful library and I'm going to study a little bit and I take out the book. Right. I take out the book. At that moment, the Yetzer Hara will say, it was a beautiful place, and you have a little bit of peace to yourself, which is really nice. It says maybe use this time to worry, to think about, this person. People tell me their problems a lot, right? To talk about this person's problem or that person's problem, and how you're going to solve this, and you're going to solve that. There's a guy who needs a job, and how you're going to find him a job, and another person needs this and person needs that. You have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I could think about that. Somebody has to think about that. So you should think about that, right? There are lots of things that can be distracted. And this is the Yetzer Hara's strategy of busy work. And really, it can get you to be present but absent in heart and mind. I mean, I could sit here and I could study, right? I could sit here and I could study, and at that same time, I could also be completely absent, right? My brain could be someplace else, but my eyes could be scanning the page. I could be sitting here I could be completely disconnected from what it is that I'm actually doing. So now, if the Yetzer Hara does not distract you the way we just mentioned, it will remind you of riddles and involve you in lengthy deliberations. Right? I don't think he means chidot. I don't know that word. I don't know the word chidot. But I'll take his word that it means riddles. Chidot, do you know the word, Nathan?
Yes, and it's something that when it comes up in classical Hebrew writings, when they actually write riddles, I feel like, oh no. That like
Yeah.
even Ezra, I think, sometimes has them.
Yes. I mean, it is. There's a whole the Ben Ish Chai wrote a whole book of them. He wrote a whole book of riddles to keep people from reading novels on Shabbat. That was they should read novels. They should read riddles. I don't know why, but okay, something to keep your mind busy, right? People like puzzles and riddles and things like that. It'll keep you busy, keep you busy with stuff. Again, again. I think a lot of this really, in reality, we have to kind of think for ourselves as to what helps us. What is the Yetzer Hara? What is the Yetzer Tov? Because sometimes, right, you have to have fun. Sometimes you need to have relaxation, right? Those are important things. And we have to know ourselves and know like when we need to be. Sometimes we need to be silly. Silliness is very important in life, and I highly recommend it. So maybe a riddle might be good, right? A good clean joke would be very good, and a good comedian is great. And sometimes we really need that, and there's a concept in Jewish law that sometimes to preserve the Torah, we have to be mevatel the Torah. We have to not do Torah in order to be able to do Torah better. So, if you're the sort of person who could sit and study all the time and you're happy and everything's great, okay, fine. But if you're the sort of person who needs to refresh yourself in various ways, right? And I'm certainly one of those people, then you should do that. But okay, so he says you can get worried about all sorts of lengthy deliberations. If a person is one of those who throw dice or play chess and the like, the tempter will cause the individual's mind to picture such a game and will be thinking of the moves he should make. at an earlier stage or earlier late stage of the game and the various strategies to be employed in order to win it, right? So when you're playing chess, think about chess, but when you're not playing chess, don't necessarily think about chess all the time. And of course, there are millions of ways for your mind and your heart to be put into one of these kinds of spins, right? So this is kind of a spin. We're just thinking constantly about what's going my next move, whether it's a chess game or whether it's the game of life. So if a person escapes all the above and is one of those devoted to wisdom and understanding, the evil inclination will bring to his mind. But now let's say you've done really well so far. Okay, you've passed every test. You passed every test. He says the evil inclination will bring to his mind a difficult subject in learning and distract him with questions and answers, contradictions and resolutions. And it will call his attention to a point that he has missed in his study, which he should have considered, or remind him of what he still has to learn. And so he will begin to think of how to go about doing it. In this way, the evil inclination will distract him in all the acts of worship and cause him twice as much damage as benefit. We just described the entire Lithuanian yeshiva system. No, there is one way is for people to become obsessed with unsolvable intellectual problems, right? If you become so immersed in unsolvable intellectual problems, then that's also a kind of distraction, right? That's also a kind of distraction. And the thing about that distraction is if I'm distracted by a chocolate cake, I can have a pretty good conversation with myself. I could say, self, you know what? You know the chocolate cake isn't good for you, and you know this is just desire, and it's gonna pass, and you're gonna eat the chocolate cake, and it's gonna make you sick, and it's really not so and important. But if I'm immersing myself in some problem in the Talmud, right? I'm immersing myself in that problem and I'm just grinding away in my head. How can this be? There's this opinion and that opinion, or something in Jewish law. There's this opinion and that opinion, and I'm grinding away. I feel very holy, right? I feel very holy, and I'm not going to have that conversation. I'm going to go, good job. You're doing a great job, right? Trying to work this thing out, when in fact I'm actually doing nothing, right? I'm just involved in a more sophisticated kind of distraction and busy work, but it is still distraction and busy work. And it will do twice as much damage as benefit, because you think, because not only if I'm sitting here and I was trying to serve God, and I'm distracted by a chocolate cake, I'm just going to eat the chocolate cake and I'm going to be done, right? I'm going to eat chocolate cake, be done. Lesson learned. Okay, lesson learned. But if I get myself, if I think that dealing with these knotty intellectual problems is like that's my mission in life, then I'm just gonna think I did great. Right? I'm gonna walk out of here and think, wow, good job. Wow, that was amazing, right? That was amazing. You're at the top of your game. Congratulations. You've won the golden ring. We'll stop there. We'll stop there because it's 1:46, 1 minute longer than any human being can actually pay attention. Even though I started a little bit late, still. Okay. Questions, thoughts? Everybody's so quiet.
Oh, I thought this was very relevant, especially as I'm sitting at work and the piece of just wanting to, oh, that's a fun mug. Just wanting to indulge, just all the studies that I want to indulge, and not being able to, due to said busy work. I like the phrase of a smart burglar. It is, but also the piece about the external value of fame and what one does, because I have a close friend. It's like, I danced on Broadway and I did this, and why don't I have money? You know, I'm like, and I can't, I don't know. I'm sorry, you don't. But, and now you're, and now he's older and he's not going to be dancing on Broadway. So I don't know how to say anything, and then I think that is frustrating. And now I just walk dogs and watch after cats, and I'm thinking that sounds pleasant. I don't I don't I don't know. So I don't know. I'm taking it all in, but I found this to be very relevant to people's lamenting about why I did all this, why didn't I receive this, the formula piece.
But well, it's important to realize also that if today you're famous and you're dancing on Broadway, tomorrow you could be walking dogs and cats, you know.
Yeah, I was
I
like,
mean,
yeah.
that's the nature of the world. There's no kind of guarantee, you know, and especially I think fame and wealth are both, I mean, extremely temperamental, you know,
Mhm.
very temperamental. They're easily gained in some cases and easily lost, you know, especially in the TikTok era, right? You could be
Isn't
famous.
this a more pragmatic, less metaphysical thing of saying, well, you do the deed for the reward of heaven, you know, not for so if you're doing something and the benefit you're getting out of it is other people saying, oh, what a beautiful table she sets,
Right.
rather than, wow, she always has 10 people over for Shabbos,
Hmm.
right? And even then, that the purpose is that other people are, when that goes away, when people are no longer noticing it,
Hmm.
if you then feel bereft, you were doing it for the wrong reason.
Right. Right.
You know, I mean, when you're dancing on Broadway, in the assisted living, I had a friend whose brother used to come, and he was a principal dancer for under Peter Martins with New York City Ballet. Very, very, and so he would talk about it, and he would say, well, now I'm reduced to teaching.
Right. Right.
And I'm thinking, wow, you had this beautiful career, and now you're passing the Masorah down to the next generation. Why is this not satisfying?
Right.
You know, it's not even like your friend, you know, like Kayla's friend who's walking dogs. I mean, this is a guy who's still in that world,
Right.
right? And he's not happy.
But that feeling of being reduced, you know, can, you know, is such a damaging little worm, right? You know, and I think that that's partially what he's getting at here. He says that, you know, one problem with kind of your seeking after fame is it is fleeting. You are likely to lose it, and when you're likely to lose it, you're likely to feel diminished. And when you feel diminished, you could really become diminished, right? I'm sure he's a person. Uh, I was a teacher, so I don't think that teaching, and I don't think that teaching is, you know, a person who's a writer who's teaching writing, a person who's an artist who's teaching art, the person who's, you know, I don't think that that's diminishing at all, as you said, you know, but that feeling of being diminished, that I'm no longer, you know, the star that I was.
Well, I can tell you as a dancer that, you know, writer is not diminished by teaching because writer doesn't face his readership. Teacher does not feel diminished. Whatever you do, you don't feel diminished by teaching your craft. But as a performer, you definitely do. Because at one point, when you're young and full of energy and vigor and grace as a dancer or whatever, you literally look at thousands of people looking at you from the stage. And then as a teacher, you look at most, I don't know, 15, 20, okay, master class, 100 people looking at you. And you're only giving them a small portion of what you know of your craft. And again, as you know, as you age, you cannot perform in the same capacity as you have before. So you definitely feel diminished, 100%.
Interesting.
And it doesn't even have to do with ego. I think it just has to do with being realistic and realizing that I'm not what I used to be.
Right, but maybe you're something better.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. It's very different. Teaching, and I've done both. Teaching and performing is very different, and
Mhm.
it gives you different level of, not level, different texture of satisfaction from what you do.
Interesting.
These are two very, so I definitely could again see how you could feel diminished from I don't know, maybe retirement brings up the same sort of result. People do feel diminished because
Yeah.
they were productive and putting in 40 hours of work per week. And now as a teacher, you know, you teach maybe, right, Lee, you're teaching.
Not me,
so,
not
you
me.
know,
I feel uplifted. I feel honestly, I feel uplifted in some sense. Because I get to teach for free, but it sounds sort of stupid, but it's I like all my teaching is lishma, you know, it's I'm hearing
And no
myself.
lesson plans and no
teaching is-
observations,
Yes,
all the other bureaucracy, you just pure teach.
yes, I've not being in a school is a joy, is a great joy. So I better go because I have another thing. I have another thing in like 3 minutes. So I will do that. Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you very much, Kaylin. Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody,
you.
for coming, and
Thank-
hope to see you soon. And please contact me and share thoughts during the week, during whenever. Okay, I would love to hear from you, everybody, all the time. Bye.
Thank you.
thank you so much.